There are moments in life when everything feels like it's collapsing. You wake up with a weight in your chest, the days blur together, and hope feels more like a memory than a force you can hold on to. Hard times don't knock before entering, they barge in, uninvited, and turn your world upside down. It could be a loss that shattered your heart, a failure that crushed your confidence, or a season of quiet despair where nothing seems to make sense. And the truth is, no one escapes these moments. Pain is universal. It connects us all. Even the strongest people you know have faced storms. Consider Oprah Winfrey, who endured abuse and poverty before rising to become one of the most influential voices in the world. Or Nelson Mandela, who spent 27 years in prison and emerged not bitter, but full of wisdom and strength. So here's the question I want you to carry through this video. What if your hardest moment is the beginning of your greatest transformation? In the next few minutes, we're going to walk through what it really takes to overcome hard times, not just survive them, but grow from them. By the end, you won't just feel seen. You'll feel ready. Let's dive in. Number 1, understanding hardship. Why life hurts sometimes. Pain is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's not proof that you're broken, weak, or cursed. Pain is part of the human experience, woven into the very fabric of life. From the moment we're born, we're thrust into a world that is both beautiful and brutal. Philosophers like the Buddha taught that suffering is one of the fundamental truths of existence, that life is marked by change, loss, and longing. Psychologists echo this in modern terms, explaining that pain often stems from the clash between our expectations and reality. Spiritually, many traditions view hardship not as punishment, but as refinement, a fire that tempers the soul and reveals what truly matters. Hard times come in many forms. Sometimes it's the grief of losing someone you love, a silence so loud it echoes through your days. Other times, it's the sting of failure, a business that collapses, a dream that dies, a path that suddenly ends. Depression can creep in slowly, like a fog that won't lift, numbing you to joy. There's betrayal too, the kind that cuts deep when someone you trusted turns away. There are also the less obvious, quieter struggles, the loneliness of feeling misunderstood, the weariness of trying to keep it all together, the hollow ache of existing without purpose. Hardship doesn't wear a single face. It shapeshifts, personalizing itself for each of us. And still, no matter the form, the pain is real. The suffering is valid. But where most of us get trapped is in our resistance to it. We tell ourselves we shouldn't feel this way. We try to bury our emotions, distract ourselves, numb the discomfort, but resisting pain doesn't make it disappear. It multiplies it. Imagine trying to hold a beach ball underwater. You can push it down, hide it for a while. But the moment your grip slips, it bursts to the surface with even more force. The same is true for emotional pain. The more you push it away, the more power it gains over you. What you resist persists, and what you accept transforms. There's a crucial truth we often forget in the thick of it. Pain is not punishment. It is not life trying to break you. It's life trying to build you. Pain wakes us up. It forces us to pay attention, to look at what we've been avoiding, to grow in ways we never imagined. It strips away the illusion of control and asks us to trust something deeper. In its own harsh, inconvenient way, pain teaches. It sharpens our awareness, deepens our compassion, and most importantly, reveals our resilience. In every culture, in every era, you'll find stories of people who suffered deeply and yet became stronger because of it. Their suffering didn't ruin them, it revealed them. And that's the opportunity hidden inside every hard time. It's not a detour from your life's journey, it is the journey. And while you may not have chosen the storm you're in, you can choose how you walk through it. Understanding that hardship is part of the human condition frees you from shame. You're not alone, you're not broken, you're simply human, and that's more than enough. Number 2, the inner battle, managing your mind during darkness. When life knocks you down, the first battlefield you'll face isn't out in the world, it's in your own mind. The voices that whisper, "You'll never make it out of this," or "You're not strong enough," aren't just thoughts, they're forces that shape how you experience pain. In moments of adversity, our brains go into survival mode. Some of us fight, pushing back against reality with anger or stubborn denial. Some flee, numbing out, avoiding, running from the pain in whatever way we can. Others freeze, paralyzed by fear, unable to take even a small step forward. And many of us overthink, drowning in what-ifs and worst-case scenarios, caught in a loop of mental chaos that only deepens our suffering. This is the inner battle, the war between your fears and your strength, between your pain and your potential. The first step to managing this internal storm is recognizing that you are not your thoughts. You are not your panic, your sorrow, your anger, or your fear. These are passing weather patterns, not your identity. Like clouds in the sky, emotions come and go. They may feel overwhelming, but they are not permanent. And this is where the mantra becomes powerful. You are not the storm, you are the sky. The storm will rage, but the sky holds steady. It allows the chaos to pass through, without being destroyed by it. In the same way, your awareness, your inner observer, has the power to hold space for your emotions without being consumed by them. But awareness alone isn't always enough. When your mind begins to spiral, you need tools to ground yourself. One of the most immediate is breath work. Slowing your breath sends a signal to your nervous system that you are safe. Try the 4-7-8 technique. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Do this a few times, and you'll feel the difference. Journaling is another lifeline. Pour your thoughts onto paper without judgment. Let your fears and confusion out of your head and into the light where they lose their power. Often when we write it all down, we realize our mind has been distorting the truth. The act of writing can clarify, simplify, and soothe. Cognitive reframing, a tool from cognitive behavioral therapy, is also essential. It means learning to challenge the stories you're telling yourself. For example, if your mind says, "This is the end," ask yourself, what if this is a beginning in disguise? If you hear, "I can't handle this," counter it with, "I've faced things before, I'm still here." This isn't about toxic positivity. It's about finding a more balanced, empowering lens through which to view your reality. Reframing doesn't mean ignoring the pain. It means refusing to give it the final say. In darkness, your mind can feel like your enemy. But the truth is, it's trying to protect you. It's just using outdated tools, ancient mechanisms meant to keep you safe from physical threats. Today's battles are internal, and they require a different kind of strength: emotional regulation, mindfulness, and self-compassion. You must become the guardian of your mind, choosing what thoughts you allow to stay and which ones you gently let pass. In the chaos of hard times, when everything feels out of control, managing your mind is your first and greatest act of power. Because once you gain even a little control over your inner world, the outer world starts to feel a little less overwhelming. The storm may rage on, but you will have found shelter, not outside, but within. And from that place, you can begin to rebuild, step by step, thought by thought, into something stronger than you were before. Number 3. Finding strength in the struggle. There is a concept in psychology known as post-traumatic growth, and it may be the most powerful reframe you'll ever encounter. It's the idea that after experiencing deep pain, trauma, or adversity, people don't just recover, they evolve. They grow stronger, wiser, more compassionate, more grounded in what truly matters. It's not just about bouncing back, it's about bouncing forward. This doesn't mean the pain goes away or that it didn't leave scars. It means that the pain became a catalyst for transformation. And once you understand that growth is not just possible, but often born from hardship, you begin to see your suffering not as a dead end, but as a doorway. Throughout history, we find countless examples of those who were shaped, not broken, by adversity. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, and yet emerged with a deeper sense of forgiveness and unity than before. He once said, "I am not a saint, unless you think of a saint as a sinner who keeps on trying." That's what strength forged in suffering looks like. Not perfection, but persistence. Malala Yousafzai was shot for going to school, and instead of being silenced, she became one of the youngest Nobel Peace Prize winners, a global voice for education and resilience. These individuals didn't simply survive hardship, they used it. They let the fire forge them. They let the wound become the place where light entered. We often think of breakdowns as the end, but what if they're not? What if your lowest moment is simply the part of the story where everything begins to shift? In the breakdown, the old self crumbles, the illusions fall away. And while it's terrifying, it also makes space for something new to rise in its place. Think of a seed buried in darkness. It has to crack open to grow. The pressure, the soil, the darkness, all of it is necessary. Without the struggle, there is no sprouting. And without the sprouting, there is no blooming. Human beings are not so different. Comfort is a beautiful thing, but it rarely teaches us what struggle can. Comfort lulls us into routine. It makes us complacent. Hardship, on the other hand, forces us to confront who we really are. It reveals our values. It shows us our edges. It strips away the noise so we can finally hear what matters. In struggle, you learn resilience. You learn that you can do hard things, that you can keep walking with trembling legs, that you can face the worst and still find something inside you that refuses to quit. Struggle demands presence. It pulls you into the now where clarity and courage live. It's not romantic to say that pain can be a teacher, because when you're in it, it doesn't feel noble, it feels crushing. But that doesn't mean it can't have meaning. It doesn't mean that in time, you won't look back and see how the struggle sculpted you into someone more grounded, more real, more alive. The key is to stop seeing pain as a detour and start seeing it as part of the journey. Maybe even the most important part. Growth doesn't happen in the light, it happens in the dark. It happens in the moments you think you've lost everything and realize that somehow you're still standing. So if you're in the thick of it right now, don't rush through it. Don't numb it or run from it. Sit with it, learn from it, let it shape you. Because when the dust settles and the pain fades, you might just find that the version of you who emerges on the other side is someone you never thought you could become, but always had the potential to be. Struggle is not the end of your story. It may be where your real story begins. Number 4, rebuilding through action. What to do when you don't know what to do. In the aftermath of pain, confusion often sets in. You feel like you're standing in the wreckage of something that used to make sense. And now, nothing feels clear. The mind loops. What should I do? Where do I go from here? It's easy to get paralyzed in that space, to wait for clarity before moving, to hope that one day you'll just feel better and ready. But here's the truth that can set you free. You don't need clarity to begin. You need movement. Action, even the smallest kind, is often the bridge that takes you from despair to possibility. When you feel stuck, you don't need a grand plan. You just need a next step. It can be incredibly simple. Wake up and make your bed. Drink a full glass of water. Take a 5-minute walk around the block. Write one line in a journal. Call someone and tell them the truth about how you feel. These may seem insignificant when you're in pain, but they carry more power than you think, because every small action is a vote for life. A statement that you are still showing up. Action breaks the spell of helplessness. It creates a ripple effect that can't be seen immediately but gathers force over time. It interrupts the paralysis. It tells your mind, we are not stuck. We are not finished. We are still in the fight. There's a saying in psychology, motion creates emotion. When you're depressed or grieving, your energy drops, and so does your motivation. But if you wait to feel good before you act, you may wait forever. Instead, act your way into feeling. Move your body. Even just stretching or doing 5 push-ups can signal your brain that you are alive and capable. Take a cold shower. Walk while listening to uplifting or calming music. These aren't just distractions. They're anchors, things that ground you to the present moment when your mind wants to live in the past or spiral into the future. In tough seasons, routine becomes a lifeline. Structure creates stability when everything else feels uncertain. Having a morning ritual, no matter how basic, waking up at the same time, stepping outside, journaling for 5 minutes, can become your compass. It doesn't solve everything, but it gives you something to hold on to. Goals, even small ones, help direct your energy. Your goal might be to simply take care of your health this week, to read 5 pages of a book each day, or to apply to one job if you're searching for work. The size of the goal doesn't matter. The consistency does. The key is momentum. Micro wins build confidence. They remind you that you have agency, even if life feels chaotic. There's also power in physical habits. Movement changes chemistry. Exercise releases endorphins that help lift mood. Eating nourishing food stabilizes your body and in turn your thoughts. Getting enough sleep restores your mind's ability to process and heal. These things may seem too simple to matter, but when the world feels overwhelming, returning to the basics becomes revolutionary. The body becomes the lever you can pull when your mind is too heavy to lift. And every time you choose a life-giving action, no matter how small, you reinforce a new identity. Someone who doesn't quit, someone who continues, someone who rebuilds. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't require you to be ready. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to choose the next step, then take it. And after that, another. The journey out of darkness isn't a sprint. It's a series of slow, steady movements. But each one matters. Each one proves that while you may not control the storm, you absolutely control how you walk through it. Rebuilding doesn't start with a breakthrough. It starts with a breath, a choice, a single act of courage when everything inside you wants to give up. That's where the shift begins. Not in the perfect plan, but in imperfect, determined action. One small step at a time. Number 5. Rebuilding through action. What to do when you don't know what to do. In the aftermath of pain, confusion often sets in. You feel like you're standing in the wreckage of something that used to make sense, and now nothing feels clear. The mind loops. What should I do? Where do I go from here? It's easy to get paralyzed in that space, to wait for clarity before moving, to hope that one day you'll just feel better and ready. But here's the truth that can set you free. You don't need clarity to begin. You need movement. Action, even the smallest kind, is often the bridge that takes you from despair to possibility. When you feel stuck, you don't need a grand plan. You just need a next step. It can be incredibly simple. Wake up and make your bed. Drink a full glass of water. Take a 5-minute walk around the block. Write one line in a journal. Call someone and tell them the truth about how you feel. These may seem insignificant when you're in pain, but they carry more power than you think, because every small action is a vote for life, a statement that you are still showing up. Action breaks the spell of helplessness. It creates a ripple effect that can't be seen immediately, but gathers force over time. It interrupts the paralysis. It tells your mind we are not stuck. We are not finished. We are still in the fight. There's a saying in psychology: motion creates emotion. When you're depressed or grieving, your energy drops, and so does your motivation. But if you wait to feel good before you act, you may wait forever. Instead, act your way into feeling. Move your body. Even just stretching or doing 5 push-ups can signal your brain that you are alive and capable. Take a cold shower. Walk while listening to uplifting or calming music. These aren't just distractions. They're anchors, things that ground you to the present moment when your mind wants to live in the past or spiral into the future. In tough seasons, routine becomes a lifeline. Structure creates stability when everything else feels uncertain. Having a morning ritual, no matter how basic, waking up at the same time, stepping outside, journaling for 5 minutes, can become your compass. It doesn't solve everything, but it gives you something to hold on to. Goals, even small ones, help direct your energy. Your goal might be to simply take care of your health this week, to read 5 pages of a book each day, or to apply to one job if you're searching for work. The size of the goal doesn't matter. The consistency does. The key is momentum. Micro wins build confidence. They remind you that you have agency, even if life feels chaotic. There's also power in physical habits. Movement changes chemistry. Exercise releases endorphins that help lift mood. Eating nourishing food stabilizes your body and in turn your thoughts. Getting enough sleep restores your mind's ability to process and heal. These things may seem too simple to matter, but when the world feels overwhelming, returning to the basics becomes revolutionary. The body becomes the lever you can pull when your mind is too heavy to lift. And every time you choose a life-giving action, no matter how small, you reinforce a new identity. Someone who doesn't quit, someone who continues, someone who rebuilds. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't require you to be ready. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to choose the next step, then take it, and after that another. The journey out of darkness isn't a sprint. It's a series of slow, steady movements. But each one matters. Each one proves that while you may not control the storm, you absolutely control how you walk through it. Rebuilding doesn't start with a breakthrough. It starts with a breath, a choice, a single act of courage, when everything inside you wants to give up. That's where the shift begins. Not in the perfect plan, but in imperfect, determined action. One small step at a time. Number 6. So role of faith, purpose, and meaning. When life breaks us open, when everything familiar falls away, we're often left asking the most ancient question, why? Why did this happen? Why me? Why now? And while the answers to those questions are rarely clear or easy, the search for meaning in the face of suffering is what allows us to endure it. As Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, famously wrote, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." This isn't just a poetic idea, it's a psychological and spiritual truth. In his book, Man's Search for Meaning, Frankl observed that those who survived the unimaginable pain of the concentration camps were often not the physically strongest, but those who held on to a deep sense of purpose, something bigger than the suffering itself. Whether it was the hope of reuniting with loved ones, finishing a piece of work, or simply living with dignity in the face of inhumanity, meaning gave them strength when nothing else could. This is why finding purpose, even in the midst of hardship, is not a luxury, it's a lifeline. When you're anchored to something greater than your pain, you become more resilient. You stop seeing suffering as something that just happened to you, and you begin to see how it might be shaping you for something. This shift from victimhood to meaning is subtle but profound. It doesn't minimize your pain, but it reframes it. It asks, how can I grow from this? What am I being invited to see, to change, to become? And that perspective can turn even the darkest chapter of your life into a doorway toward depth, wisdom, and transformation. For many, spirituality is what makes this possible. It doesn't have to be religious, though for some, faith in God or a divine plan is a powerful anchor. But spirituality, in its broadest sense, is about connecting to something greater than yourself. It might be the belief in a higher power, the rhythm of nature, the unfolding of the universe, or simply the idea that life, in all its chaos and beauty, still holds purpose. In times of crisis, this spiritual grounding becomes the bedrock on which people rebuild their lives. It gives a sense of continuity when everything feels fragmented. It offers hope, not always for immediate relief, but for deeper understanding and eventual peace. Even if you don't subscribe to any particular belief system, life philosophy itself can serve a similar role. Ask yourself, what do I stand for? What kind of person do I want to be in the face of pain? These are existential questions, and wrestling with them is how we find strength in suffering. Living by your values, like compassion, courage, integrity, or service, can turn pain into purpose. It becomes less about what's happening and more about how you choose to meet it. There are also daily practices that help connect you to this deeper sense of meaning. Meditation is one. Sitting in stillness allows you to hear the voice beneath the noise, the part of you that knows you are more than your circumstances. Prayer, for those who resonate with it, becomes a dialogue with the divine, a way to feel less alone, to hand over what's too heavy to carry. Acts of service are another pathway. When you help others, even in small ways, your pain finds direction. You stop spiraling inward and begin reaching outward, which paradoxically brings healing back to you. And then there's values work, simply writing down or reflecting on what truly matters to you, and making one choice each day that honors those values, even in the smallest way. The truth is, you may never find a neat answer to the why of your suffering, but you can still find meaning through it. You can still use it. You can let it deepen you, stretch you, and refine you into someone wiser, kinder, and more unshakable than before. Purpose is not always about some grand mission. Sometimes it's as quiet as showing up, as steady as keeping your heart open, as humble as helping one person feel less alone. And in doing that, you begin to heal. Not just from the pain, but into something greater than what the pain tried to take from you. Number 7, connection. You're not supposed to do this alone. There's a quiet, dangerous belief that often creeps in during hard times. The idea that you have to go through it alone, that if you're really strong, you'll tough it out in silence, that nobody would understand, or worse, that asking for help would make you a burden. But the truth is, isolation doesn't make you stronger. It makes the pain heavier. When we're struggling, our instinct might be to withdraw, to protect ourselves by pulling away. But this survival response often amplifies our suffering. What we really need in those moments is not more solitude, but more connection. Pain distorts perspective. It tells us stories that aren't true, that we're weak, broken, or beyond help, and left alone with those thoughts. They grow louder. But the moment we share them with someone we trust, even just a sentence, their power begins to shrink. Vulnerability is not a weakness. It's an act of courage. It takes immense strength to say, "I'm not okay," or "I don't know what to do." And it's in that honesty that healing often begins. Because being seen in your pain by someone who cares doesn't just bring relief. It brings clarity, grounding, and hope. You realize you're not alone in the storm. You never were. Asking for help is not about dumping your problems onto others. It's about inviting someone to walk beside you. Even just for a while, it can be a friend who listens without trying to fix you. A therapist who gives you tools to navigate the chaos. A support group where people nod because they get it. Real support isn't always about advice. It's about presence. It's someone holding space for you, reminding you of your strength when you've forgotten, reflecting back to you that what you're going through is human and survivable. Of course, not all support is helpful. Some people, often well-meaning, offer solutions when what you need is simply to be heard. Others may invalidate your experience by saying things like, "Just think positive," or "It could be worse." While these statements might come from a good place, they can make pain feel dismissed. So it's important to be discerning. Lean on those who can meet you where you are, who aren't afraid of your darkness, who offer empathy, not judgment. If you don't have that in your immediate circle, know that it exists out there. Therapists, online communities, peer groups. There are people who want to hold space for what you're carrying. Sometimes just talking about what's hurting can shift everything. Saying it out loud takes it from an overwhelming storm inside your mind and places it in a shared space where it can be processed and understood. It's not about solving everything in one conversation. It's about creating a lifeline. Humans are wired for connection. We heal in relationship with others, with ourselves, with something greater than us. And every time you choose connection over isolation, you take a step toward healing, even if that step feels shaky. So if you're hurting, reach out, call someone, message a friend, make an appointment, join a group. Don't wait until you feel better. Do it because you don't. Healing doesn't happen in the dark corners where we hide. It happens in the light of shared humanity, in the quiet moment when someone says, "Me too," and you realize you're not as alone as you thought. You were never meant to carry this alone, and you don't have to. Number 8, the long game. Healing is not linear. One of the hardest truths to accept in the midst of recovery is that healing doesn't follow a straight line. We want progress to look like a clean upward curve, a smooth road from broken to whole, from pain to peace. But real healing is messy. It's a winding path with highs and lows, breakthroughs and setbacks. There are days when you feel powerful, like you're finally turning a corner, and then suddenly, without warning, you're pulled back into the same sadness, the same fear, the same darkness you thought you'd outgrown. This is not failure. This is the process. Healing is not a finish line you cross one day. It's a lifelong relationship with yourself, one that deepens with every season you survive. Some days you'll wake up feeling light, open, even joyful. Other days, old wounds may resurface, grief may revisit you, and self-doubt may whisper again. But each time you meet that pain with compassion instead of judgment, each time you choose to continue, even when it's hard, you are healing. Every relapse, every stumble is part of the journey, not the end of it. It's proof that you're still engaged in the work of becoming whole. Being patient with yourself in this process is essential. We're conditioned to seek quick fixes, 6 steps to healing, 30-day transformations. But the truth is, emotional growth doesn't happen on a schedule. Just like physical wounds, the deeper the break, the longer the recovery. Some wounds scar over, but never quite disappear. That doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. And often those scars become the very places where your strength shows through. The evidence of what you've lived through and what you've built from it. Give yourself permission to rest. There will be times when action isn't what you need. Times when the bravest thing you can do is simply breathe, stay present, and be gentle with yourself. Rest is not a weakness. It's part of the work. So is joy. So is laughter. Don't wait until you're fully healed to live again. Healing and living are not separate. They happen together. You are allowed to feel good, even when everything isn't perfect. You're allowed to move forward while still carrying pieces of pain. This is the paradox of healing. It's not about erasing the past, but learning how to carry it with wisdom and grace. Long-term transformation doesn't look like someone who's never been hurt. It looks like someone who has been through the fire and emerged with a deeper sense of self. Someone who's more empathetic, more grounded, more clear on what truly matters. You may not even realize it while it's happening, but every time you choose reflection over reaction, stillness over chaos, honesty over avoidance, you are changing. You are becoming more resilient, more rooted. Eventually, the things that once shattered you no longer shake you in the same way. You start to trust yourself more. You start to believe that no matter what comes, you'll find your way through it. This is the long game. It's not glamorous, and it's rarely easy, but it's real. And in that slow, uneven unfolding, you become someone stronger, wiser, and more whole than you ever imagined. So if you're in the middle of the climb, keep going. Don't judge your progress by the day. Trust the direction. Healing is not a destination you reach. It's a life you live, one patient step at a time. Number 9. Your comeback story starts now. There comes a moment, often quiet and unseen, where something deep inside you shifts. You've been bent by the storm, maybe even broken in ways you didn't think you could survive. You've cried alone, questioned everything, and felt like the world moved on without you. But here you are, still breathing, still standing, still searching. That moment right there, that's where your comeback begins. Because the truth is, the hardest chapters of your life do not disqualify you from greatness. In fact, they're often the very soil from which your greatest strength, clarity, and purpose grow. Think of every great story you've ever heard, the ones that moved you, stirred your soul. They don't begin with comfort and ease. They begin in the pit, in loss, betrayal, rock bottom. But what makes them unforgettable is what came after, the turning point, the rise. And right now, you are standing on the edge of that exact turning point in your own life. You may not feel ready, you may not know exactly how, but you can begin again. And this time, not in spite of the pain you've experienced, but because of it, you get to decide who you become after the storm. That is your power. Not everything that happens to you is your fault, but what you do next is your responsibility. You can let the pain define you, or you can let it refine you. You can carry the past like chains, or you can forge it into armor. You can stay stuck in the story of what hurt you, or you can begin writing the next chapter, one where you rise, not because you were unshaken, but because you refused to stay down. So ask yourself, what story do I want to tell about this moment of my life? Do you want to look back and say, that was where I gave up, or that was where everything changed? You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to feel fearless. You just need to take one small, brave step. That might be reaching out to someone, starting a routine, getting help, or simply deciding to show up for yourself today. Don't wait for confidence. Confidence is what comes after action, not before it. Every great comeback begins with a choice. The choice to believe that your story isn't over, that this pain isn't your prison, it's your passage, that your scars aren't proof of defeat, they're proof you fought and survived. And now it's time to rise, not as the person you were before, but as someone new, someone forged by the fire, someone with depth, with wisdom, with something to give to the world that no one else can offer, because no one else has lived your story. So stand up, not perfectly, not without fear, just rise as you are, where you are, and carry this mantra with you like a torch. This is not the end of me. This is where I rise. Say it out loud if you need to. Write it on your mirror. Let it echo in your chest until you believe it. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to begin, because your comeback story, it starts now.